So we are back for game 2 between Dirty Mike and the boys versus Ugly Family International. This time it's going to be Dirty Mike and team playing on the Radiant side of the map with Ugly Family playing on the Dire side. Both teams opening up this second matchup between the two with the same set of bans. You have the Invoker Ursa ban out from Dirty Mike, and you have the Wind Ranger. And let's see if they stay true with their second ban here on Ugly Family. Taking a little bit longer in the first ban phase than in game 1. They may be reevaluating their ban strategies to help reduce some of the murder ball potential, but they do opt to ban out the Death Prophet once again. So same bans. Let's see if the picks are going to be kept the same here. If so, we'd expect to see a Vengeful Spirit pickup right here. But much like the bans, the first picks here are taking a little bit longer, and there it is. There's the Vengeful Spirit pickup. So I'm curious to see if they're going to go with the exact same lineup, the exact same draft. It worked in game 1, so if you just repeat that performance, boom, you have yourself another win. In theory. So between game 1 and game 2, there has been a substitution on the side of Ugly Family International. Solicit, who had played Ember Spirit in game 1, has been replaced by Genesis. So I suspect we'll see him take over for that mid lane unless Ugly Family decide to swap positions around a little bit. So we'll see if that helps or hinders Ugly Family as they make a substitution there. This draft specifically is being captained by Slam on the side of Ugly Family and Alteration 17S on the side of Dirty Mike. For those of you just tuning in, this is game 2. And game 1 went the way, it's a best of 2 series. Game 1 went the way of Dirty Mike and the boys. Omni Knight being picked up by Ugly Family International. Omni Knight continues to have one of the highest win rates in Pub Dota right now. I believe his win rate is at 58 or 59% amongst the 2K to 4K MMR bracket, something like that. But his pick rate is also one of the lowest in the game, sitting at around 7%. So he's in like the bottom 10, bottom 20.
Radiant's ban. Dire's ban.
So he's a hero that wins a lot of games, but he's just not that fun to play. You get the passive movement speed degen, you get the repel to provide some magic immunity to your allies, you get a heal, and you get Guardian Angel, which is essentially a shallow grave on crack that you can provide to your entire team. But it only grants immunity from physical damage, so that magical damage is still going to make its way through. So things like Echo Slam from Earthshaker, that can still wreck a team under the protection of Guardian Angel. Be curious to see if Dirty Mike and the boys opt to utilize that Omni Knight pick to their advantage and how they go about working around it. Since Ugly Family International had the second and third overall pick, it went VS Omni Witch Doctor. Instead of the Earthshaker, unless they opt to use Earthshaker as like an offlane core hero, I would like to see Dirty Mike pick up an AA. That AA Blast would just be hugely detrimental to the healing support lineup that Ugly Family have in position now. It would completely disable the Voodoo Restoration. It would disable the Purification. I suspect one of these two players is eventually going to build into a mechanism which would be completely negated by itself. So you disable a lot of the support functionality from those two support players.
Spirit Breaker.
Radiant's pick.
The second round of bans for Dirty Mike and the boys, sticking true to their first round ban mechanics. They ban out the Anti-Mage and the Chaos Knight. Ugly Family International responding with a respect ban, banning out the Phoenix, who in game 1 was played by Panty Dropper, so giving him some respect there. And then the Venomancer ban, so trying to slow down some of the possible push potential from Dirty Mike and the boys, who respond by picking up a Phantom Lancer on the Radiant side. Ugly Family's first core pickup is going to be Spirit Breaker, one of the funnest heroes to play, in my opinion. You just charge around the map with Charge of Darkness and make a mess of things by running through enemy lineups with Charge of Darkness and continuing the stun wagon with the Nether Strike and the Greater Bash. Greater Bash, I believe, is the only truly random bash mechanic still left in the game. It is a 17% flat chance to bash. All the other bash mechanics are considered progressively random, I believe is the phrase, but essentially it's an average of 17%. So the first time you hit, you'll have like a 5% chance to bash. On Slardar, for example, the second time you hit, if you don't bash, your bash percent goes up to 8%. Third time, it's 12%. Fourth time, it's 15%. Fifth time, it's 18%. So it gets bigger and bigger the more times you hit and don't successfully bash, until you ultimately do trigger that bash mechanic and then the counters reset. But Spirit Breaker is just 17%. So in one procast I saw, it actually landed 3 times in a row against a Morphling player of all heroes. And they did the math on it, and for that to occur, it's like a 1 in 200 chance for 3 bashes to occur in succession like that, with a flat chance to bash. With a progressive system like that, it's more like 1 in 2,000. So that's why in a lot of pub games, especially if I'm playing them, when you see multiple Spirit Breaker bashes come out, you hear people shouting 17%. So something to keep in mind. And complementing that Spirit Breaker and his bash mechanic is Troll, whose Battle Trance provides that global attack speed aura to all of the allies. So it'll up the damage and pushing potential from Troll Warlord. It'll up the bashing potential from Spirit Breaker. And realizing that they're going to have to meet stun for stun, Dirty Mike and the boys continued their stun-heavy lineup that we saw in Game 1 in the form of a Vengeful Spirit, Witch Doctor, Dragon Knight, Wraith King, all heroes with stuns. They're keeping pretty true to that once again here, as they pick up a Vengeful Spirit, an Earth Shaker, and a Magnus, all of which have big stuns themselves. So Ugly Family International, realizing Dirty Mike and the boys still have an off lane to pick up, they opt to get rid of another team disabling stunner in the form of Tidehunter. I think that's a smart ban. Getting rid of the Phoenix and the Tidehunter, both heroes would have provided excellent team fight mechanics for Dirty Mike and the boys. But one hero that's still in the lineup is Darkseer, and I think that would be a pretty devastating pickup here as well. You would be able to Surge and Ion Shell the Magnus or the Earthshaker, and then get into a big vacuum RP Echo Slam and just wipe the entire team of Ugly Family if they execute it correctly. I think Darkseer's the pick here. That's my call. Putting $1 down on
10 seconds to
Darkseer.
go.
Ugly Family picking up the Outworld
seconds.
Devourer, OD. The original Devourer.
Reserve
Will be
time.
playing that mid lane. And that's a good pickup with how he's been reworked. The Arcane Orb automatically doing that insta-steal that used to come out of Astral Imprisonment. Now all he has to do is cast that orb and it automatically steals int. With Magnus being a melee hero, he's going to have to get up close and personal with that creep line, as I mentioned in game 1.
Shadow Fiend.
But they decided to pick up the Shadow Fiend. So seeing Outworld Devourer was going to be the mid play by Ugly Family, they decide to retreat Magnus out of that lane and get a ranged hero for themselves into that middle lane, which I feel is a smart play. Once again, as we get started here in game 2, got a little bit of overlay problems there. I'll switch that. Get a "Hey Steve, how's it going?" being called out by Alterion. Is that 175 or 17S? I think I was saying 17S in game 1. Can't really read it down there. It's 17S. But only 2 heroes dropping from Ugly Family here to kick off game 2. So not too bad. While they do that, let's see if I can go through introductions here, if the game will allow me to show these cosmetics. The Earthshaker going to be played by your Alterion 17S. Shadow Fiend. Oh, there he is. There he is. Juicy Grape will be playing the Shadow Fiend in the mid lane here. Not rocking the Arcana though, but they do have the cool little Faceless Void T-Rex courier with the backpack. AO Maggot will be playing the Vengeful Spirit. The Phantom Lancer leading the charge here is going to be played by Prankster. Magnus heading into the off lane is going to be played by Panty Dropper. And he's heading deep into enemy territory here. He does have a ward, so he'll likely just be blocking off the spawn camp here. And we will have a big clash here. So
to go.
before I introduce the Ugly Family squad, let's see how the 2 teams react to this first rune.
What's with all the scribbling?
What's with all the scribbling indeed? Both teams drawing out different locations on the map until they're ultimately pinged out by Panty Dropper, who says, guys, they're all in the bottom lane. They're probably also in the Roche Pit. Be very careful. And you're going to have your first engagement coming out. OD is the one to secure the bounty rune, but he is blocked out by the fissure. He's pinged out by Omni Knight, who's sticking around to make sure OD does make it out safely. Juicy Grape getting into position to potentially harass him a little bit, but realizing he's outnumbered, the 2 teams reset and head back to their lanes. Funny enough, the top rune is still there, free for the grabbing if anyone is to check on it in the first 2 minutes. Penny Dropper, figuring he was going to be outnumbered in this top lane, didn't attempt for it. An Ugly Family, playing aggressively, secured the bot rune with all 5 of their heroes, and so it's just going to sit there, and I think it's going to rot in the first 2 minutes. Supports rotate into the top lane. You had the Coconut from Genesis, and Big Papa throwing out a heal nuke is going to drop Magnus to half, so he's forced to eat his first tango. But he's got a magic wand, which he's going to need in this cast-heavy lineup up here in the top lane as he goes into a defensive tri-lane in the top. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, it's Houston who's blocked out by an excellent fissure, and AO Maggot's stun was already on cooldown, so it's not going to be up for the Spirit Breaker, who ultimately charges towards the middle lane and breaks it off so he can wrap back around, get in position in the bottom lane here. He eats a few tangos. I think he was low enough that a salve may have been required there, but he also grabs a clarity, which will be heading his way once he gets a chance with the courier. So if he does get into trouble again, he's able to charge his way out of there. Taking a quick look at the last hits as these two stun supports in the bottom lane do their work and harass the Space Cow out of position. No, the canceled swing from Houston is going to allow Earthshaker's clarity to remain rolling there. And he also picked up an arcane rune, so he will have enough of a fissure.
You know the drill.
Houston eating the initial stun from BS, and he's going to run back towards the Roche pit. But Alterion, being chased down by the Witch Doctor, isn't feeling aggressive enough to fissure. I think if he had fissured right here, once he had gotten that far, he would have blocked the Earthshaker. Earthshaker would have blocked the Spirit Breaker in between the two supports and the Roshan, and just one or two more hits from the Roche and the hits from the supports would have been enough to grant first blood. But plays it a bit more defensively here to start, and as they do so, it's going to buy me enough time to hopefully go through introductions here for the side of Ugly Family. In the top lane, we have Slam playing the Troll Warlord, hoping to carry his team to victory here. Right next to him, hanging out in the jungle in the sidelines, is Big Papadala playing the Omni Knight. Over in the mid lane, you have the Outworld Devourer, OD, the original Devourer, being played by Bo Bryan. The off-lane stun combination is going to be played by Houston, and the team's current stand-in, who is Genesis. So, good luck to both teams here as they start out the game relatively defensively for the first 4 minutes. First blood has yet to have been spilled. In game 1, it was Dirty Mike averaging more than a kill a minute themselves. About a kill and a half per minute for the entire game across both teams. So far here in game 2, we're 4 minutes in and no kills, and nobody's really... And there it is. I missed it.
First soul is
Trying to watch all the lanes, and I missed the rotation into the mid lane as Shadow Fiend and Earthshaker rotated to catch the Witch Doctor in the bottom rune area. So I think Witch Doctor did secure the rune. Nope, it was Shadow Fiend who got the rune as well. So Shadow Fiend getting the bounty rune and first blood is going to significantly jump him up in gold and escalate his farm. You can see him sitting on 800 gold on top of the bottle. He's being outfarmed pretty dramatically here by Bo Bryan, though, who is... Bo Bryan has as many denies as Juicy Grape has last hits at this point, so doing an amazing job, and you can see it there again as he gets another deny and throws out an orb towards Juicy Grape, but he eats a Shadow Raise and some tower damage himself for that exchange, and he walks away a little worse for wear, and he doesn't really have any regen items anymore. It looks like he's eaten through most of his tangos. He has the magic wand, but Juicy Grape playing Shadow Fiend isn't going to be tossing out a ton of Shadow Raise combinations quite yet, unless he's going for the kill, in which case the nuke potential from those Shadow Raises is going to be more significant than the magic wand's capability of healing it. Panty Dropper spotting out Genesis here, but he's going to be hit by a cask, and then Big Papadala rotating up with a heal bomb Slam running forward, tossing out those whirling axes is going to slow him in place, and Omni Knight secures the first kill for Ugly Family, the second kill of the match as they drop Panty Dropper in the Radiant off lane. One thing to be careful of though here is this Phantom Lancer, who is being protected very well by his support. He's getting plenty of space, plenty of farm. He has 36 last hits by himself, and you can see he's got that Ring of Aquila pretty much finished and on its way out. Smoke rotation coming out from Genesis and Big Papadala. They see Juicy Grape farming this middle lane here. O'Brien grabbing the top bounty rune. Juicy Grape is going to be tossed into an Astral Imprisonment, and then Genesis rotates up. He throws out the cast with Papadala, throwing out the heal stun, and they're able to drop Shadow Fiend as Alteration rotates into the lane here. They get the reciprocal kill against the Witch Doctor and now against the Omni Knight. So it's a 2-for-1 trade, but Houston's charging through, and he breaks the charge at the last second, having made his way through Vengeful Spirit. If he had kept on target there, he probably would have been able to secure the kill against Earthshaker, but he calls it off and rotates back to the high ground on his side of the map. Fight recap showing the tail of the tape here, as they say, and slightly favoring Dirty Mike as they're able to kill the 2 supports in exchange for the 1 Shadow Fiend. But it does slow down the Shadow Fiend's ability to farm. He doesn't have any stacks in the jungle over here. There are some stacks in place in this bottom lane though, so if he becomes aware of that, he'll be able to recover pretty quickly here. Houston charging into this bottom lane just to get back into position. He's going to eat a lance from Phantom Lancer, but both heroes without much support behind them are just going to tend to focus on their farm. And that's exactly what Prankster's been doing this entire game, sitting on 50 last hits. Make that a 51 as he throws out another harassment lance from onto Houston. Meanwhile, the rest of his team is kind of hanging out here in this middle lane. You have Juicy Grape and the rotating stun support combination of VS and Earthshaker, looking to see if they can get in position to do something against O'Brien here. But Genesis is sitting on the high ground nearby, ready to jump in and support his middle ally if anything were to go down. He's spotted out by the Vengeful, he gets pinged, and the rotations are going to continue from the stun support duo. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Slam and Panty Dropper going back and forth. And while the safe lane has been friendly to Prankster's farm, the safe lane has also been friendly to Slam's farm, as he's sitting just 5 last hits behind at 51 last hits to what was the Phantom Lancer's 56. Magnus is hit level 6, so he has reverse polarity, but not quite enough mana to cast it if he were to need it. I think he would have enough there, but Genesis is now in trouble as he eats a Fissure and a Shadow Raise from Shadow Fiend. AO Maggots canceling the final right click, so Witch Doctor's going to make it to high ground. He pops a healing salve, and I think AO Maggots just got a little bit reluctant to engage, having seen Juicy Grape get tossed into that Astral Imprisonment and himself eat the Maledict. So Genesis comes back into the fight. He eats another Fissure, but he gets the casks off, and right now he's just distracting the Dirty Mike team, who continue to just kind of bob and weave, and O'Brien landing his ultimate against 2-3 heroes here. Houston charging into Juicy Grape. He's going to land that initial charge stun, but that's going to be it, as Juicy Grape is rolling with a double damage rune, and at this point, Panty Dropper has rotated into the middle lane with full health, full mana, ready to drop an RP in case the team fight were to break out there. Meanwhile, the carries on both sides of the map, Slam and Prankster, continuing to farm. So, much like in Game 1, they're kind of opting to let the hard carries do their thing and farm it up while the battle for supremacy rages in the middle lane here, where at any time either team can be diving. Juicy Grape securing the invis room for himself is going to walk to the high ground. They're going to stun Big Papa Dala, and Juicy Grape winds up his Requiem, but Big Papa does land a heal onto himself and then a repel, so he's going to be just fine. Meanwhile, Bo Brian's throwing out some right clicks, and Houston commits to charging in, but cancels it as he heads into the river. So, good reaction time from Big Papa Dala, who ate the stun, and Juicy Grape, instead of landing the double Shadow Rays combo, which at level 4 likely would have killed him, killed the Omni Knight, opts to go for the Requiem, which has that 2-second cast delay, so he was able to recover from the magic missile stun from Vengeful there and land the heal before the Requiem damage registered. Speaking of Vengeful, she has 0 items. It's 12 minutes into the game. She has 0 items in her inventory. She's making it back to base, where she's going to be able to pick up just the basic brown boots and town portal scroll. So she picks up one more town portal scroll and heads into this bottom lane, where Prankster's being dove by Big Papa and Houston. Panty Dropper charging forward, committing the RP, and trying to make something happen to Houston here, who's under the protection of Repel from Big Papa. But Big Papa is going to eventually fall here, as he's caught on the wrong side of a fissure, and 4 heroes from Dirty Mike and team get the reciprocal kill, but it's a trade of Phantom Lancer for Omni Knight, and as a support, you'd happily trade your life away for the opposing team's hard carry any day of the week, especially if that carry is as late game and as farm intensive as a hero like
towers in bad shape. Radiant's toughened up their structures.
It's also buying time this top lane here from Slam, who holds off on his battle trance until the glyph is off of cooldown. They pop it and immediately crush the top tier 1 tower. And the first tower of the game.
Radiant's top tower's in bad shape.
Meanwhile, in the bottom lane here, you had Houston charge into the lane just to get in position. Now he's going to commit a charge to the mid lane here on Juicy Grape, but I suspect that's going to be cancelled, as he's going to be protected by the Earthshaker and now Prankster. So yep, Houston does call it off here. Alteration, trying to throw out a fissure block, isn't going to close out the entryway, so Bo Brian is able to get away and tosses himself into an actual imprisonment. Meanwhile, it's Houston who's trying to charge forward onto Juicy Grape, but gets crushed by the Echo Slam from Earthshaker, and it interrupted that ultimate there. So it's a 1-for-0 trade. They were trying to claim the life of OD, but instead they get Houston, who charges forward to protect his ally. Fissure was slightly off the mark, otherwise they may have gotten both there. Genesis under invisibility tries to pick off the Radiant Courier. He's able to get one last hit in, but that's not going to be enough from the likes of a Witch Doctor. Your right click isn't that scary. So Courier's able to make it back to base. The little faceless Rex there. You can't hurt him, he's too cute. Slam running around, he's finished his Helm of the Dominator, so he's picked up an Alpha Wolf. One of the recent changes in 686 that I really enjoy is anytime you take control of a creep, it automatically gets assigned at least a base HP pool of 1400, so they get much tankier, especially at the beginning of games, so that Alpha Wolf's able to live a little bit longer. Houston losing time here, as he losing farm time, I should say, as he pops a smoke and charges into the enemy line, but damage is already done as Outworld Devourer has been dropped. They do get Shadow Fiend in exchange for that, so both mids being dropped here in the middle lane as Houston charged in to finish off SF in exchange for his OD. of the tail of the
best
two-letter
do something
acronym
about that
mid
bottom
lane.
tower.
Bottom tier 1 tower taking some damage here, and it
Dire's
may
bottom
actually
tower's getting the
drop.
business.
Nope, but
Time.
it's going to be close. It's going to be sub 100, right at 100. So we'll see if Houston goes to deny it. Can he deny it? Yep, there it is. He slowly bashes it down. One more. Boom, there it is.
Looks like Dire's bottom tower.
So Houston
got
getting the deny.
disowned.
And thanks to Genesis' high ground vision here, he's going to spot out Vengeful Spirit, who's farming the neutrals. He charges in. He lands the charge. He receives a heal, and the heal nuke is almost enough to drop Vengeful by itself, but he commits the Nether Strike to it. Big Fissure landing against two. Big Papadala throwing
Radiant's
the
mid
repel
tower's
onto
getting
Witch
banged.
Doctor, who's been fairly damaged here. Cask being tossed out onto the illusions of Spirit Break, or to Phantom Lancer here, as
Radiant's
Dirty
mid
Mike
tower's
can
coming
continue the
apart.
chase here. Panty Dropper
Radiant's mid
with
tower's in
Blink
trouble.
Dagger in his pocket, blinks forward. He tries to charge and skewer back some Dire heroes, but nobody in the path there, so it's going to be slightly off the mark, and Dirty Mike and the team reset as this game continues, and it's pretty neck and neck right now at the 17-minute mark. You can see the team net worth chart. We're 20 minutes in, and it's back and forth right along that 0 net worth mark. And kill for kill, it bounces slightly more in favor of the Radiant, but it's right towards that 0 mark. Anything sub 1,000 gold is essentially 0 this far into a Dota game. And as I mentioned before, this game much less violence
Dire's
than game
mid
1
tower
between
could
these
use a
two
little help.
teams, as we only have 11 kills total at the 18-minute mark. But that may change here shortly, as a big
Guess
charge
what's
is
happening to
coming
Dire?
through as he barrels through 4 Radiant heroes, eats a ton of damage, but is ultimately healed by Omni Knight. And now both teams look to counter-engage with the Earthshaker landing a huge Echo Slam, and they do get OD as the first casualty of war, but it's the Witch Doctor throwing down his cast now. Might drop Prankster, but the Lance finishes him off first. Meanwhile,
Can't do
Houston
nothing
charged
about Dire's
down
structures
the
right now. One last top tower for
Magnus,
the
who was
Radiant.
heading towards that bot rune
But Dire
area,
best do
and
something
they
about
secure
that
the
bottom
first
tower.
kill for Dirty Mike. So far, it's 2 for 1, but the fight's not over yet as Houston charges towards Juicy Grave,
Guess
who's
what's
finished
happening
the
to
Shadow
Dire's
Blade.
bottom tower?
So he's able to escape under the protection of his invisibility. Meanwhile, Big Papa hanging out behind Spirit Breaker there, throwing out the heals, throwing out the repels, and Houston ready to pop that Blade Mail in case there is any return damage coming out from what was then the low HP and very damaged support lineup from Dirty Mike and the team. So together, the Omni Knight and Spirit Breaker are able to defend this middle tower, which is sitting at 150 HP. So tower-wise, slightly favoring Ugly Family here, as they've been able to drop 3 towers successfully, both towers in the off lane, as well as that middle tier 1 tower. And they've only lost 1 tower themselves, that's the off lane tier 1, which was denied by the Spirit Breaker. So because of that, you can see they do command a little bit of a net worth advantage, but not much.
I'll take that.
Sentry wards being dropped here into the bottom lane are going to spot out some vision. Panty Dropper blinking forward aggressively towards Genesis, but he's going to eat a cask for his efforts, and it bounces violently between him and the Earthshaker, but no commitment from Ugly Family as they stick on their side of the river, which was a smart call because there was plenty of support in position between Earthshaker, Shadow Fiend, and even AO was not too far out. So as soon as that cask was finished bouncing, if they had committed, Panty Dropper would have been ready with a reverse polarity. So smart call on the back not to overcommit and risk taking a team fight uphill that they weren't ready for quite yet. So as I mentioned before, with the ability to mind control heroes, puts their base health at 1400. It allows you to take command of these creeps that you may not have thought about taking before because they were just too fragile. Things like the Ogre Frost Mage here, who can toss ice armor around and gives you that armor bonus of 8 in the early game. Which is pretty significant. You can see it pretty much doubles the armor that anybody on their Radiant side would have. Going for the second deny here. It's going to be slightly off the mark as Shadow Fiend is able to secure the kill. Slam getting protected by Repel is going to charge forward. Pops his Battle Trance, tosses out the Whirling Axes, but not really getting in arm's reach of anyone. He's going to activate his phase boots and sprint back to the protection of his tier 2 tower and the rest of his family. Panty Dropper blinks forward, is caught inside the Astral Imprisonment though, so he's not going to be able to skewer anyone back. He was looking to skewer someone back and potentially land the RP. Instead he skewers back towards Houston, is able to land just the shockwave, but it's Shadow Fiend committing the Shadow Raises, which ultimately drops a Spirit Breaker. So a bit of a sloppy fight overall, but they are able to secure a mid-tier 1 tower and a kill, and they don't lose anyone in the process. And they bring that net worth chart right back to 0, where it's been this entire game. Have an update coming in from Twitch chat saying that Firestarter won 2-0. So for those of you who are Darmin cast regulars, you know that I cast the Firestarter team pretty regularly, especially since in Season 9, which was just this last season, Firestarter went on to win the entire Heroic bracket. So they had the most games to cast in reality. So easy to cast them quite a bit. So congratulations to them. I believe that puts them at 5-1 overall so far in Season 10. So thank you for the update, Twitch chat, specifically Steel Dota. Genesis being swapped back to Earthshaker, and he's going to eat a Fissure, he's going to eat some Magnus, he's going to eat all sorts of enemy heroes as the entire Radiant lineup is lurking in the dire jungle right now. Houston needs to be careful here. He has 2 smokes in his back pocket, but that's not going to do much for him if he's caught out by multiple stuns here. He does eat the Magic Missile from AO. He eats the Fissure from Alteration, but they didn't stack those stuns very well. They kind of doubled up on him, so he's ultimately able to get back to Big Papa, who throws Repel and protects him. They're going to look to just murder ball once again and take this tier 2 tower, as in the mid lane it's Slam looking to push towers himself.
Dire's got one last top tower.
And so they were slow to pick off towers here at the beginning, having lost 3 towers for just the one in the bottom lane, but they've responded and they've finished 3 towers, 1 in the mid, 2 in the top, in quick succession. So Dirty Mike and the boys taking control of the Ugly Family jungle, and those are the 3 towers you really don't want to lose. You don't want to lose your safe lane towers, you don't want to lose your mid tier 1, because what that does is it creates, I'll tell you here in a second here after this rotation, as the swap is thrown out. Repel's not going to stop you from that, but the cast is committed, and it does an excellent job of bouncing between the aggressive heroes from Dirty Mike and the gang. And on the back of that, you had the charging Houston rushing in. So excellent response coming out from Ugly Family to the smoke gank aggression from Dirty Mike, as they're able to secure 3 in the top lane. And Magnus fell as well, but I believe that was elsewhere on the map. And now realizing that Prankster is all alone, Houston is going to charge forward. Here's the Doppelwalk. Let's see if he can figure out which one's the real one. He does, ultimately. Slam's chasing him down here with the Whirling Axes, which are slightly off the mark. So he is blinded, but he's not slowed, and he's going to be able to get away, especially with that increased movement speed granted from Boots of Travel.
Double damage.
Slam with double damage and some lifesteal realizes now's the time to go. With the Dirty Mike squad having just fallen in full retreat, he jumps into the Roche pit. He'll be able to drop this pretty quickly here solo. He has the rest of his team hanging out on the high ground just in case there's trouble. But they have good vision. They see multiple Radiant heroes in the mid lane, now starting to rotate to the bottom, but it's going to be too late. Slam's finished off Roche. He has the Aegis.
The Dire best do something about
Dirty
that
Mike
bottom
thinks they
tower.
might be trying to use that Aegis to gank into the woods, but Prankster's farming so they get in position to support him if needed. That's not going to be the case. Need to step away for just 10 seconds. Apologies. But before I do so, let's see what happens in the bottom lane. Prankster commits a lance and eats a cask and mallet of damage from the Witch Doctor, but it's Panty Dropper surging forward, committing the reverse polarity, and Prankster eating a bunch of damage here. I'm not sure if, yep, the ticks are going to be enough. It's Witch Doctor getting the kills against the Phantom Lancer here, and then surrounding the tier 1 tower. There's 2 more heroes to fall as Ugly Family are just rolling through this bottom lane here. Troll landing just
Radiant's
tons of
bottom
damage
tower
from...
seen better days.
How did he not see that?
There goes Radiant's bottom
Magnus
tower.
hanging out in the trees. He eats a cask of whirling axes
Radiant's top
and
tower's hurting.
doesn't get spotted, so he jumps over to the side shop. He's taking the creeps on a tour here and just
Radiant's
jump in the
bottom
creep
tower
wave, which
seen
is
better
an
days.
excellent tactic here. Is there's only 2 heroes left or excuse me, 2 creeps
breaking
left
down
if
the
the
Radiant
tower is able to
structures
finish
like
those
this.
off, which
Radiant's
unfortunately
bottom
it's not.
tower ain't a pretty
This
sight
tower would
right
have been
now.
our backdoor protection, but the 2 heroes are there as Slam
Radiant's bottom
tanks the
tower
tower.
full
He
for.
commits his
Radiant's
battle
top
trance
tower's
and
taking
drops the
hits.
tower quickly.
Radiant's
I'm
mid
afraid to
tower
step
could use
away
a hand.
here as Ugly Family are executing the murder ball strategy here. You can see there's 3 heroes in position to try to defend this tier 2 tower, but it's not as many as the 4 committed Houston's charging in that Ugly Family's bringing to the party, and they're going to be able to successfully drop Magnus first, and then they turn their focus onto Shadow Fiend and Phantom Lancer. The charge is still coming in as Houston dives behind the tier 3 towers, able to help his team secure the final 2 kills, and it's a full team wipe right now with buyback coming out from the Earthshaker, who identifies Slam is there. He's thinking about going in. Slam eats a last second heal from Big Papa, so he's going to be safe for now, but deciding to go ahead and tank the tower anyway. Poppy just come back to full health, pops his battle trance, and he and the team are going to make sure work of this middle rack as they just roll up this middle lane on the back of that big team fight.
Radiant's mid-rags is out of the
That
picture.
fight recap showing just the loss of the Aegis there, which is no harm, no foul. You have 10 seconds left on Battle Trance and only 3 heroes alive to defend here. Big RP landing from Panty Dropper as he lands it on 4, tries to skewer him back, but it's not going to be there. Bo Bryan, the only one managing to dodge that RP, right-clicking Magnus down with 10 int stolen, doing some significant damage himself. And there was just no follow-up damage from Dirty Mike and the gang there. Earthshaker does not have his Blink Dagger yet. He's finished off the Arcane Boots, but he is support poor, being the lowest net worth in the game, being lower than even the Vengeful Spirit, who's slowly working her way towards the mechanism here. Shadow Fiend has finished off the Silver Edge here, which provides that break mechanic which disables passives. Not sure. I don't think that's that bad. You get rid of the fervor from Troll, so he gets, you know, quite a bit less attack speed. You get rid of the bash mechanic from Spirit Breaker, so it has its uses, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for Dirty Mike and the boys quite yet. So as these two teams do take a break from the violence here for just a second, I'm going to run AFK for just 10 seconds. My apologies, and I'll be back to cast before these teams are fighting, I promise. And I'm back. So you have Genesis pinging out saying, "Gather up, guys, I have a smoke, let's make something happen here." We've taken the lead. You can see it was sitting at 0 for quite a long time, and then real dramatically at that 25-minute mark, it went from 0 to 15k in a matter of no time. Ugly Fam tiptoeing their way with the use of smoke into the enemy jungle, but just kind of hanging out, trying to bait out this middle lane, the Big Papa and the Bo Brian, but they're not going to be gone on anytime soon. Prankster needs to be real careful over here as he's completely isolated by himself. He's going to look to teleport away, and he does get out in time as the rest of the Ugly Family squad rotate around looking to get that pick off, but he's going to be out of there. Dirty Mike charging forward, and the creeps get killed, so it's eventually cancelled there. But it was Earthshaker, the Alterion 17S, who had circled out the Radiant jungle saying, "Hey guys, be careful, there's smoke in there." So Dirty Mike and the team still very much in this fight. They have some decent wave clear potential coming out from the Shockwave from Magnus, the raises from Shadow Fiend, so they're going to be able to hold off this single mid lane of Rax. However, if they lose this bottom, and it looks like Ugly Family's preparing to push up into the high ground here now, that may just be the game for them. They can survive with one lane down. I don't know about two. Prankster right now he doesn't have a choice. He used his boots to get back into base, so for 20 seconds he's committed to defending this. Right now he's going to force out this middle lane, and he has the option of teleporting to this top lane and trying to counter push, but once again that would risk the loss of this bottom lane of Rax, which they cannot afford to lose. All heroes having buyback. You have Diffusal Blade, Vlad's, Boots of Travel up on Phantom Lancer. Slam leading the charge here for the rest of his team. He's sitting on top of Sanj and Yash and Daedalus. Alright, now both teams just kind of throwing jabs at one another. They're throwing out the casks, they're throwing out the lances, not committing anything with too long of a cooldown, nothing with too much of a mana cost. They're just seeing how both teams play this. And this is the part of the game where I think a lot of pub Dota goes wrong. Teams become impatient, they try to force something to happen, and as they do that, they overextend and get picked off. So excellent patience being displayed by both teams here, as Houston, Big Papa, and Genesis all just kind of sit on the high ground and let Slam get in position. And it's Juicy Grape and Panty Dropper who extend to just the outside range of the tower here, right in that area, and aren't willing to commit any further. I think once they get to about here, that's when Ugly Family would engage, charge down, commit the casks, commit the Maledicts, and try to drop someone. But Dirty Mike and the team, knowing better, just let the creep waves come to them, and they're catching up on their farm here, playing the game patient. since Ugly Family at this point has demonstrated they're not willing to engage. It might be prudent for the Phantom Lancer to teleport to that top lane and force the back from Ugly Family, but without knowing exactly how many dire heroes were on the high ground, that's still a risky play. So instead, they opt to smoke up and head into the high ground here. Now that the creeps have gotten a little bit of breathing room, they know they're close. They ping out their jungle, they're smoked up. They're going to likely be heading towards the Roche pit here. They spot Big Papa in the low ground here, and they land a couple shadow raises, but now at this point they know what's going on. Roche has fallen. Big cast landing between AO and Juicy is going to force the death of Shadow Fiend here, and now the chase is on from Ugly Family. They get the second kill, they get the Vengeful Spirit. Earthshaker with his Blink Dagger now in place is going to eventually blink out and teleport to safety. Phantom Lancer trying to doppelgang his way away from Houston's charge of darkness isn't going to be successful in doing so. He does break the charge, but with all 5 heroes there, he doesn't get far afterwards. And now with 3 heroes dead, the Aegis in place, they're going to be pushing high ground, no doubt. Houston even breaking off from his team to charge towards Panty Dropper, and Alteration having split focus here. Do I save the Magnus or do I try to save the Rax? Once Houston had called off the charge, he opted to try to save the Rax, but it's too much damage, too fast coming out from Slam. The buyback does come out from the Phantom Lancer, but Slam being protected by Repel is going to essentially dodge Panty Droppers. Skewer. Now Slam just tearing through the illusions here as Magnus is dropped by the charging Spirit Breaker. Alteration blinks forward, catches 3 heroes in a big Echo Slam, but speaking of slams, the Slam Troll is still at full health, full force, and he's dropped 2 heroes in exchange for his Spirit Breaker. Cask bouncing between the 3 remaining heroes on the side of Dirty Mike and the boys, but it's 2 racks down, middle racks down. Slam still sitting on the Aegis, has the Eye of Scotty, has the Daedalus, has the Sanjin Yash, is going to head into the top lane here. He focuses on breaking down the tower. Now he's going to pop his Battle Trance, I presume. There it is. He right-clicks that melee Rex. Down it goes. Last but not least, the final ranged barracks. He's playing objective gaming here while the rest of the team duke it out here in the middle lane. Bo Bryan focusing on Juicy Grape here, who's trying to drop off the Omni Knight. They eventually get him. So GG is called. It was just a casual last kill fight to the death in the middle lane there, but GG is called. And so both teams walking away from game 2 here, continuing their even ratio throughout season 10, as Dirty Mike and Ugly Family International will both walk away from this match, this best of 2 matchup, I should say, with 1 victory apiece. So congratulations to both teams, I suppose. Ugly Family taking game 2, kind of utilizing that same strategy that Dirty Mike and the boys utilized in game 1, which is that group up early, force team fights, and push to their advantage. Even though Ugly Family on paper may have had the better team fight mechanic, because they had all those AoE spells in the form of Earthshaker's Fissure, his Echo Slam, the Shadow Raises coming out from Shadow Fiend. Vengeful has the Armor Aura that she can throw out, and Magnus, of course, with his RP. But end of the day, 1 for 1. Ugly Family taking game 2, Dirty Mike and the boys taking game 1. Both games being cast by me, Darmin, live here on twitch.tv/DarminCast. I will be posting both of these videos along with all of my other videos up to my YouTube channel. Stop by, take a look, study up on your opponents so you can play the best Dota, the most informed Dota you can play in subsequent AD2L matches. If you like my nonsense, you like my particular brand of, I don't know, crashing Dota and early game pauses, please subscribe, like, share, follow, invite your friends, colleagues, co-workers, strangers, hobos on the street, alley cats, whoever, to stop by the Twitch stream and check me out. Until then, Everybody out there who's been tuning in, I appreciate it as always. And for all of your future Dota matches, good fun, have luck. Alright, talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.